What a good groomie. Pretty girl. Got your ears forward. No, donkey. Ellie. No, she's having none of it. Good girl. Hi guys. So if you watched my last vlog, you'll know that after the show there is a training session for everyone that attends. So this is my training session. They're group ones, so there's a couple of other people in it as well. Basically, the first exercise that we did was to make sure that we were sat central inside the saddle, or on the saddle. So I've probably said before, but from behind you should look like you're riding a stride in terms of like where you're sat, so you don't want to be like leaning one way or another. So what we did is basically run our hands down our spine, then down the back of the saddle, and then onto the horse's spine to make sure that our spine, obviously the gullet of the saddle, and the horse's spine are all in line. You can do that with your leg astride, and then what you want to do is be then placing your leg back over the fixed head so that you are central into the saddle. The instructor also talked about the importance of queens if you need one. So this is a bit of padding that goes over your fixed head. So I do use one because my legs are quite skinny. It just helps to support my posture and position in the saddle. So with your right leg, so that's the one that is usually hooked over the fixed head, but you can get them on the other side, so it's not a never. Your toe should be sort of pointing downwards, which goes against everything you've ever learned of riding a horse. And your left leg, which is in the stirrup, is kind of like your conventional way of riding. So you would have your foot in that stirrup with your heel down, not how mine looks like it is in this video, with my toe pointing down also. Disclaimer, these boots really have no grip, so I need to get some new ones. There was also a lot of discussion about sort of your upper body posture. So I always think kind of have my shoulders back and my nose in the air, which historically I did really struggle with, but I do Pilates twice a week and I have definitely improved with my posture since then. And that is one thing that I actually didn't get picked up on in this lesson. Like apparently my upper body posture was quite good, but you don't want to be kind of like folding back into your ribs, if that kind of makes sense. We did some work on turning, so particularly on the right rein, she basically got us to look right over our right shoulder so that then our weight was transferred into our right hip, which then transfers down obviously to the horse, so they get a bit more of a clear signal that you want to go right. For me, I wasn't really supporting Ellie through my outside rein, so that is something that I had quite a few yells about. So we move on to trot, which is arguably the hardest gait inside saddle because it's bouncy, obviously. Again, working on sort of our turning and position. Just going to add in here, nothing to do with the lesson, but obviously Ellie was throwing her head up a little bit. So after the lesson, obviously not the same day, but a few days later, I decided to try her in a different bridle in the side saddle. So my normal bridle that I use for her for hacking and jumping, and she didn't throw her head up as much. I mean, I had no brakes, but she didn't throw her head up. So we're actually going to try a new bit for her because I don't think she's very happy in her mouth in that bridle. She's had her back teeth, everything checked, and she had the vet out recently for her annual checkup as well, so we know there's nothing physically wrong. So we're going to give that a try. So going back to the lesson, we worked on, I think, 20-metre circles, and what we need to remember is to not kind of collapse into the circle. So obviously, because you're on the circle, you don't want to almost be like motorbiking. So like when we're going around this way, if we collapsed to the left and we're like leaning too far down the left, we'd be unbalancing. The same on the other rein. If we were like leaning over to the right, then we would be unbalancing and wouldn't look straight. So it's important to kind of stay straight when you're working on your circles. So I think for me, the most valuable part of the lesson was the canter work. So obviously Ellie has got some arthritis, so I don't like to do too much schooling with her. But that does also mean obviously sometimes she's not super flexing in like when we do showing and schooling like now. So what the instructor said is to not think of a circle, but think of like a square or a diamond, which actually we have been told before. So we did put this into practice and it actually worked really well for us. I also shortened by contact, which was something that if you watch the other vlog, you'll know I got picked up on. And also one of the other things she said was to put my weight into like the fixed head when I'm doing a downward transition. So you'll see some of our downward transitions are pretty messy, like our upward transitions aren't too bad, but our downward ones are pretty messy. So she said to almost like kind of absorb that into like my right hip, into that fixed head. And we did do that and it made quite a big improvement. So I found that really, really rewarding, and we have since gone away and practiced this a couple of times and it has improved. And I will be honest, I don't think I was riding very well on this day because my mum, she's not claiming to be an expert or anything, but she did used to come to all of the shows with me years ago. So she does kind of know what she's on about. She's learnt a lot. And she basically was like, well, you didn't really ride her. When you actually ride her, which I then did obviously in the lesson and have done since when I'm schooling at home, she's going a lot better. So I think perhaps the high number of entries maybe made me a little bit anxious, and I think I probably just sat there and tried to look pretty and didn't really ride her, so I think that was part of our problem. But anyway, hopefully we are making progress. We have got another lesson on the 29th, I think it is, with an instructor that I used to train with actually like all those years ago, so I'm hoping that will get us in tip-top form for Royal Cornwall Show.